Well, welcome to our Innov8 Virtual Insight June 2023 Sage CRM. I'm delighted this morning to be joined by Mark Ayling, who is in the relatively recently created Innov8 CRM Division. I'm going to pass over to Mark shortly, and he'll give you a little bit of an introduction about himself and the team. But what I'll just say is, if you do have any questions that come up whilst Mark is presenting, feel free to pop them into the chat, into the Q&A, and we'll field those questions, and we'll also have a bit of a segment at the end for you to ask and answer any questions. But without much further ado, I'm going to pass over to Mark, and I think he's got about he's going to go straight into a bit of a demo, showing a bit of CRM, showing about how we can get a bit more out of it, and as I say, yeah, any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. But so over to you, Mark.
Thanks very much. Morning, everyone. Yeah, so I'm Mark. I head up the CRM division of Innov8, which was formerly a business called Laurier, a Sage CRM partner for around 14 years. So we're now the CRM division of Innov8, and there's a team of 7 of us down in the south. Well, 6 in the south, 1 in the north, actually. And we pretty much just do nothing but CRM, so we're completely focused. What I'm going to do today is give a fairly broad run through of CRM. I appreciate there's a mixed set of experience on the audience here. Some of you are new to CRM, never seen it before, and some of you are using it. So if you bear with it. I mean, there's going to be some bits for some of you which you know already, but I hope still some useful stuff as we go through. What I'd also like to do, we've talked about this, some follow-up content, either in the form of other sessions like this, or perhaps just in some video content that we put together where we show, we sort of zoom in on a certain area of CRM or a certain thing that we've done with CRM. So as well as thinking of any questions you might have as we go through and keeping a note of those or putting them in the chat, you may want to think in the background about what areas of CRM you'd like to see more of, because we really want to sort of put a bit more content out there. So keep that in mind, as we go through. And again, anything we can't cover on this session, we'll collate up. We'll make sure we follow up on any questions, and we'll also collate up any people's desires to see other areas of CRM, and then look to put together some further content beyond that. So it's not going to be death by PowerPoint. That's the only slide with my name on it. So I'm now going to just switch and share the CRM and dive straight in, basically, and just run through that. So give me a mo, and I'll share that window. Okay. So I have a fairly standard way I'm going to go through this. I will keep an eye on the chat. If there's anything I can quickly answer on the fly, I will. But as I say, I'd ideally like to just get through it, and then I'll look at the questions at the end and cover those. And then anything we don't have time for, I will make sure I follow up on everything. So we'll answer all questions ultimately. But yeah, diving straight in really. So again, let's start with some basics, which some of you may already know, but bear with it. So Sage CRM is a web application. That's the first thing to say. So whilst it lives on a server, and the server can be in your office or up in the cloud, you access it via a browser like a website. Regardless of where it lives, if it is in your office, we can make the access of it publicly available, so you can get to it from anywhere. So there's nothing to be installed on any PCs. You can get to it from tablets and phones, laptops, whatever, as long as you've got an internet connection. So straight away, it gives it a bit more flexibility, particularly for people on the road, sales activity, that sort of thing. So what I tend to do before I get into any detail is just look at a couple of headlines in the product. And there are a couple of principles to Sage CRM that I think are really key, and key to how it can be successful when you implement it. So just looking at a couple of the top level sort of things within CRM. The first one I want to mention is these 2 areas at the top here, My CRM and Team CRM. So Sage CRM particularly is very much about ownership and assignment, and everything always being assigned to someone, and making sure that all actions are followed up and chased and so forth. So My CRM, as an individual user of CRM, My CRM is your area where when you log in, you'll land normally in the My CRM area somewhere. Where the system will tell you all the things that are assigned to you. So there is a dashboard area, and I'm going to come back to that in more detail. You can see it on the screen now. I will come back to that in a lot more detail. We have a calendar. So as a user, you've got your calendar in CRM. It does sync with Outlook. So all your tasks and appointments will be on both CRM and Outlook. You've also got lists of things that are assigned to you, like if you're working on leads, opportunities, cases, you'll get your list of those things, and it's a focused view in the product, and that's really key, because when we talk a bit later about workflow and things, how things work their way through CRM, assignment and ownership is really key to that, and driving activity and the system kind of telling you what you need to look at next, telling you what you need to do next, and being proactive for you. So that's my CRM. That's a key area of CRM, and we will go into some of those areas in a little bit more detail as we go along. We've also got Team CRM. Also, by the way, on my CRM, we can look at our own and other people's my CRM area. That's key as well. So you need to think about if someone is off and you want to check up on their tasks or their opportunities, you can do that. So we can look at other people's my CRM area. Then Team CRM. Is a group view of the world, so you can divide your users into teams. So we've got some various teams there. You've also got an all teams view. So from a managerial oversight perspective, whether it's for a given team or whether it's for the entire company, we can look at a team view, and that includes, again, the calendar. So you can look at a team calendar, you can look at team opportunities and so forth. So my CRM and Team CRM, we'll touch on those quite a bit as we go along, but those are really key into the principle how CRM typically works. Couple of other headline navigation things we get in CRM. We've got a search box up here where we can drop it down and look for different things in the system, and we've got a plus button over on the right where we can add new things into the system. Those four things, my CRM, Team CRM, search and add, are the kind of top level entry points and navigation points of CRM. What I like to do often before we get into the next level of detail is just run through, dropping down this list here, you can see all the things that CRM contains. I'd like to just talk through those and explain the terminology and just in a broad sense, and then we'll drill down and look at all of those in a bit more detail. So I always say that CRM is divided into four key areas really in terms of functionality, out of the box at least. So you've got your core customer service, contact management. So you've got core contact management, which is companies and people, and your address book essentially. You've got sales, marketing, and customer service, and those are really the four main areas of functionality within CRM as it comes out of the box. So working down this list, then the top two, companies and people, obviously are your address book, companies you deal with. There may be customers, suppliers, prospects, and then the individuals at those companies that hang off of those. And one thing I didn't mention at the beginning actually that I want to do as I go through CRM is two things actually. Is in the context of everything I'm talking about is talk about where this product integrates with Sage accounts. Quite a key point to mention. So with whether it's Sage 50, Sage 200, various other Sage products, CRM will integrate with Sage accounts. So when we talk about companies and people, so the integration there allows you to synchronize accounts between CRM and your accounts product. It allows you to take a prospect that you've worked with for a while on CRM and turn them into a customer and create their account in the Sage accounts side without having to re-enter it. So companies and people, other than just being core CRM content management, as one of the first areas where we start to talk about accounts integration, and that's standard functionality as well out of the box. So that's companies and people. The next four are really all the sales area. So first of all, we've got leads and opportunities. So leads tend to be unqualified kind of inquiries, things that maybe you don't have a lot of detail on yet. It allows you to create a lead with minimal information. It also lends itself to if you're going to buy in a big list of data and do a telemarketing campaign, drop them all into leads. You don't have to create too much in your database, and they're held off to one side. Then you qualify a lead and turn it into an opportunity, which is usually where it has a financial value and starts feeding into the pipeline functionality of CRM. And then underneath opportunities, we've got quotes and orders. So for a given opportunity, you can produce one or more quotes. You can obviously produce them as documents. You can email them from the system. And there's another touch point there with accounts in that area where if you are using product codes in your account system and pricing and things like that, when you put a quote together, CRM knows about all your products, knows about all your pricing, units of measure, warehouses, all that sort of stuff. So you can utilize that information to build the quote in CRM. You can convert a quote into a sales order, which is the next one down there, and those orders can then be pushed over to the account system. So that's another integration point there, where essentially you could take a prospect, produce a quote, turn the prospect into a customer, turn the quote into an order, push it through to accounts without actually ever logging into accounts. So there's quite a tight integration there in terms of CRM and linking to Sage products. We'll look at all of those in more detail. The next two, cases and solutions, that's the customer service area of things. So cases, some people call them tickets, some people call them incidents. They can be used for returns, issues, complaints, help desk tickets. We use it for our help desk. Any sort of after sales kind of incident that needs actioning and closing to a resolution. And then solutions, if you are using it as commonly in a support capacity, solutions will allow you to build up a knowledge base of standard kind of answers or solutions to things that you can apply to cases. So people in service who are handling cases can then have a database of solutions that they look up to common problems. And those can also be published out to customers as well. So you can start getting into a bit of self-service with that, which again, I'll cover in a bit. The last one to mention on the list, which is something that relates to all of the things above, is communication. That's really fundamental CRM. So communication is appointments, tasks, things that you send from CRM, things that you send and receive, like emails can be filed in as communications. So as we go through, again, I'll cover that. You'll see that communications hangs off everything and is really core to your day-to-day CRM kind of operation. The last two are different kinds of search functions, which we can look at in a bit. So I hope that all makes sense. That's just a headline in terms of terminology and some of the core data structures. One thing to mention is that list there is not fixed. So CRM, the other thing I will mention as I go through is where CRM can be customized and extended. It's very customizable, Sage CRM. So we've got customers with that list looking very different. So some people have new things on there. We've got asset, we've got vehicle, we've got visit, we've got, you know, all sorts of different custom entities, as we call them, that you can create. So what you get out of the box is a lot, but obviously we can extend it to capture other areas of the business, other pieces of data and things. So that's a headline there. So what I'm going to do next is dip into a customer record, and we'll just have a look at on the contact management side what you get and how it sort of functions. Bear with me a sec. Okay, so this is a company record on the screen. This is a customer. Let's talk about some of the key principles first of all. So we've got a summary tab here, which is obviously the main contact card for that company and all their basic information. And then we've got a whole series of tabs across the top. I won't go into massive detail on every single tab. I'll try and just focus on the core principles. But obviously, you know, if you think of any questions or look at something more detailed, then put that in the chat and we'll try and deal with that. Just talking about this summary screen first. The next thing to mention in terms of customization capabilities is CRM, and this will apply any screen you see throughout this session where we have data fields on a screen. Let's just go in there so you can see a bit more content. So any screen in CRM where you've got fields like this is customizable. So you can have anything you want, any fields you want. There can be drop downs, tick boxes, text boxes, whatever you want. So part of us putting in CRM is not just installing a bit of software, it's actually tailoring it to you, even if it is as simple as just dropping a couple of new fields on the screen. And that we would carry out a scoping exercise with you to determine what you need. And obviously that each of these screens will be different. If you looked at all of our customer systems, there's probably not one that's identical in terms of the company screen, let alone any other areas. But if you see a screen like this, whether it's an opportunity, a lead, a case, whatever, just it's assumed that you can have anything you want on there, and that again is a really powerful part of the product. But yeah, this summary screen obviously gives you the basics of this company that we're looking at. In terms of tabs across the top, a few things to mention. So a company can have multiple addresses. Now, again, there's an integration here with accounts in that you can see there's a business address and a shipping addresses. So those are integrated with accounts as well. So when you come to put together orders and quotes, you can choose from known addresses. You can obviously the shipping address will carry through to any paperwork and any accounts functionality if you're doing dispatches and things like that. So that's all integrated up. Obviously multiple phone numbers and email addresses, but again customizable. You can have different types if you want to add those in. We've got a people tab, sorry, with all the individuals we know about, which we can drill into, and they've got their own record in their own right. Then we've got an accounts tab. So this is where the accounts integration comes into play, or one of the areas. So we can see here a summary of their account from the account system. Anything that is in the account record can be put on this screen. So we've got people showing their credit limit, showing the current balance, turnover, but the basics are obviously just their their account reference and various summary details. You've also got whether they're on hold or not, which is a key one commonly used to drive validation later down the road. So you're just about to process an order for a customer, but they're on hold, so we can put some triggers in there to say, warning, or you can't go any further yet, or if they're going to exceed their credit limit. So some of the stuff we can do in CRM will be based upon accounts information like this, and that data can be used in say validation and workflow processes in CRM. So up to that point is pretty much a summary of the company. The next three tabs we will see everywhere. So notes, communications, documents. So whatever record we're looking at in CRM, we get those three tabs. So the notes tab is really just a kind of miscellaneous dumping ground for any notes that don't fit anywhere else. It's just bits of text, just the useful bits of information that you might add to the record. There's communications, a lot more structured, a lot more detailed. We talked about it a minute ago. So communications are all future and past activities really for this company. So there'll be things in there that have been scheduled in the future, things in there that have been recorded in the past, or things that have been filed in there by means of various functions through CRM. So for example, you send an email out of CRM, it goes into the communications. If you file an email from Outlook into CRM, that goes into communications. If you generate a quote, a mail modes document, all of that forms the communication history. Obviously, we're looking at a company here, so we get an awful lot of communications. You can see there's communications with David here, with Simon. So this is the highest level where you see everything rolled together. If we drill down into the individual people or opportunities underneath, then you get a limited set of communications that relate just to that record. The communications are fundamental to using CRM. They're the way that you can have the system prompt you for things, trigger follow-ups, that sort of stuff. And I will show you in more detail in context of the calendar and such like, as we go along. But that's real bread and butter CRM stuff, the communications there. A third common tab is documents. This allows us to attach files to a record, so they can be PDFs, zip files, Word documents, anything really, can be attached and stored in the CRM system. You can drag and drop them onto this little panel here. Or we can just upload them, and the documents are stored in CRM, so I've just attached a zip file there. They've also can be categorized as well, so if you've got quite a lot of documents, you can filter them and say just show me your contracts or show me your diagrams or whatever it may be that you're attaching. Obviously, if you're on a tablet on the road and you want to look at this record, then you can still get that file because it's stored in the file in the CRM system. You can download it from CRM and access it. So those three tabs, those communications, documents, as I say, you'll see those everywhere. The remainder of the tabs are other records in the system that relate to this company. So here's the opportunities we've got on the go with this company at the moment. Here's our current quotes and previous quotes. And here's sales orders. And the sales orders, as I mentioned before, are integrated with accounts. So even if you don't process orders through CRM, if you just process them in accounts, you see them in CRM because they're synchronized over. So you've got the full order history, and we can click into any of those and see all the line items, the prices, discounts, everything. And apart from just seeing them there, that's useful. By having the accounts data in CRM, what you get is the ability to use CRM's tools against that data, so reporting and dashboards. So there's a really good reporting tool and really good dashboard capabilities within CRM. Not only can you do that with CRM data, but you can do it with accounts data. So if you're looking at reporting on turnover, profitability, sales trends, things like that, sometimes the tools in CRM are nicer for reporting on that stuff. And all of that data is there available to you. So that is a company at 100 miles an hour, just to give a summary of the sort of thing we see there. And just one to prove a point, if I go to the people tab where we saw earlier, and I drop down into one of the contacts, pretty much the same principle. We have a summary tab. We have a bunch of tabs across the top. People can have addresses, phone numbers and email addresses, communications and documents, and other related records. Also can be fully customized in terms of the data. So again, and particularly if you're doing marketing, targeting people, profiling them on you know, certain attributes is key. So what we tend to do for people is we customize the person record, you know, maybe categorizing their role, maybe identifying what type of contact they are within the business. And then when you come to target them using the marketing tools later on, you've got that information to use as your criteria. But really, in terms of how it works, you can see it's fairly formulaic. The screen layout is much the same. And that, as I say, is the core contact management area of CRM, but it does cross over into accounts integration as well. Next, what I'd like to do is move on into the sales sort of process, starting with lead, which is at the very beginning. So I mentioned earlier that a lead is usually, I mean, there's subjective views on this. It varies. Some people use a lead for a long time until they bother turning it into an opportunity. Other people have a lead very quickly converted off to an opportunity, depending on your workflow. But the principle of lead in CRM is it's one flat record. It's very simple to enter. It requires very minimal information. You know, it's not making you create a company and a person and addresses and phone numbers and all the rest of it. It's just one single record, and that way you don't waste time on stuff that doesn't go anywhere, particularly if you're buying in some data. You load them in as sort of unqualified and then convert them up. So a lead has some summary information, description. It can be related to a particular source or even a specific campaign if you're using the marketing tools. We've got various fields on the status of the lead, who it's assigned to here. We've got some details on the company, just entered straight on the lead rather than actually creating a full-blown company record. And we've got some details on the person and contact details down here as well. And what you find with lead typically is you don't make much mandatory, because you might just have a phone number and an email address, or phone number and a name, you know, chuck it in there and then gradually build it up and qualify it. And then you can see the button over on the right here, convert to opportunity, where we progress it. Despite being a fairly simple record, we do have notes, communications and documents, which I think I've got hidden at the moment. Notes, communications, all the usual stuff. We can have workflows, which I won't talk about workflow yet, because I want to talk about that in the context of opportunity, but the principle is the same. And finally, you've got the ability to customize this screen, of course. So whatever you want on there, you can have in terms of fields or stuff you don't need, we take off. So some people will keep the lead really, really simple. Other people gather quite a lot of information before they actually progress it through to an opportunity. So when we try to convert a lead to an opportunity, it will then expect you to create a company and a person. So obviously it's saying, okay, it's a bit more substantial now. You're gonna have to create the full-blown records. Which is fair enough, but obviously you've already entered a lot of information. You may actually find that the company you're dealing with is in your database somewhere as well. So there is a bit of logic here about matching. You can see this one clearly prepared earlier by me there to show that the system recognises if that company already exists. So if we use this link here, it will show us, here you go, Viking PLC actually already exists in your database. So rather than creating a whole new company and creating a duplicate, we just link it up and it merges it in, dedupes it. And it will do the same with person as well. So it's a bit of time saving. Not only are you not having to enter it, but obviously it's already there. You're not creating a duplicate. So there's a bit of logic around that. Particularly if you buy in a bulk load of data, there's a good chance some of those you might have in your database. So that's pretty neat that it kind of gives you that. So that's a lead. If I now jump to the next level, which is an opportunity, you'll see that the screens are pretty formulaic in CRM. And bear with me a sec, just going to turn that on. So an opportunity, then you can see it is linked to a company, which we must have created to get this far. It's linked to a person at that company. Then we get into the detail. Again, you can have any data you want on an opportunity. The common things are some sort of description and a bit more detail. You've got a date that it was opened, source that it came from, You can categorize it in type and things like that. If you've entered a lead and converted it to an opportunity, anything you've already entered on the lead can be automatically populated on the opportunity. You'd have to enter it again. It just converts it and carries over all the data. We've got some sort of status fields on the bottom here. So what stage it's at, what's the forecast value, certainty of close, and an intended close date or expected close date. Those three fields really are what make an opportunity more than a lead, is that it has a financial value and a certainty now, which starts feeding into pipeline information, who it's assigned to and so forth. And then we've got some total values down here which come from the orders and quotes, which I'll show you in a sec. So as I say, apart from needing a company and a person, the other thing about an opportunity is it now has value. It feeds into the pipeline and forecasting capabilities of the product. We've got notes, communications, documents, as we have everywhere else, pretty standard. But what you additionally get on CRM, on an opportunity, sorry, is quotes and orders. So I mentioned before that, see, apart from producing a quote in CRM, if we have a look at a quote, CRM will know about all your products, it'll know about pricing, units of measure, warehouses, customer pricing lists, discount groups, all that sort of stuff. So everything that you configure in CRM in terms of products and pricing is available in CRM. So when we put a quote together, I work with this quote just as it's already there. When I add a new line item, I've got the ability to choose from known products, and I pick a product and it loads up the list price. It loads up the quote. It allows me to, in this instance, set the actual sale price, and it knows about units of measure there as well. And once you've selected the product, it can also show you stock on the screen as well. That's another thing that it can know about. So it's really utilizing the stuff that you've set up on the ERP side, if you like, in CRM when you put in a quote together. It means you don't have to give everyone access to the account system anymore, because that data is available on this side. You can also do new free text line items, which is just a text line item hand typed. Comment line items, where it's just a piece of non-financial, like a bit of text there, which might be something about lead time, delivery time scales, that sort of thing. There's a few other things we can do with a quote. We can clone them. So if you produce the quote and the customer comes back and there's a variation, or they want to change one of the products out, change quantities, you can just clone your quote. You don't have to enter it all again. And this reference, the quote here is /1. You'll get a /2, /3, /4. And so a bit of time saving in terms of, and also you get an audit trail of the quotes you've produced. Obviously, we can merge it out to a document, whether that's Word or PDF. And when we talk about merging to documents, there is the ability to have multiple templates. So some customers will have lots of different quote templates depending on the type of customer or the type of product, or the product or service they're providing. Bear with me. First trip up of the day, you've got to have one, haven't you? So obviously we can produce templates with your branding, your styles. I'm gonna have to apologise on that part. There seems to be some kind of issue with our merging, which is not a good look. So obviously we can create those templates with your style, your header, footer, that sort of stuff. The other thing you can do is you can do a quick print. So there's a single click, which will just bring it up on the screen in one click without choosing the template. And you've got a send quote button as well. And what that will do is that will bring up an email on the screen, a templated email with the merged document attached. So this is not particularly fancy email here, which is templated. And there's the template, the merged quote document there, which I can now show you. Not the prettiest, but you get the idea. Obviously, this would be branded to you. And that's really useful because that's a single click with an email, and you click the button to send it, and it's filed in communications. It's filed in the documents tab with the quote and so forth. So fairly quick to send quotes out. The other thing you can do with an order is with a quote is convert it. It looks like this one's already been converted, but you can convert a quote into an order, and that order can then be pushed over to the account system as a sales order, where you can then continue on with dispatch and that sort of stuff. Jumping back to the opportunity, so we've seen quotes. orders work much the same way. So as I say, you can convert a quote to an order, or you can enter an order straight in without a quote. So quite a lot of our customers are using CRM for just sales order processing, just entering in orders day to day, and then pushing them through to accounts. The nice thing about, I'm just going to find an order, so I'll show you. It doesn't look much different to quotes, if I'm honest, but the nice thing about having the orders in CRM as an order, single line item, is that it does give you a kind of gateway to validate, maybe review, have some management approval of an order before it gets submitted. So on one hand, you can give salespeople access to orders and products and pricing. On the other hand, you can still validate it before it gets committed to accounts. So particularly also pro forma orders where you need payment up front, we can say, well, let's hold the order in CRM. Once we receive the payment, we'll then post it over to accounts. Just an example of where having that gateway between the two allows a bit of workflow there in terms of pushing those through and committing them to accounts. So jumping back to my opportunity. So an opportunity then, fundamental to the forecasting and sales part of CRM, where we can produce quotes and orders and track the activity that's going on under those communications documents, all sorts of standard CRM stuff, really. The other thing that you can apply when we get into the more transactional things like leads, opportunities, cases, is workflow, which is potentially very powerful. Functionality in CRM is all standard. It needs a bit of configuration to your requirement, but it can be very powerful. So let me cover that briefly. So if we jump back to where we were at the beginning in the team CRM area and look at the opportunities view, we can see that opportunities go through a number of stages here. So they come from a lead, they can be qualified, proposal submitted, negotiated, sale agreed. Those are just examples. What we normally do is we define your workflow, the stages that your opportunity will go through. And part of that is obviously, as you can see here, to divide your pipeline into different areas so you can forecast at different stages, showing you the value of opportunities where we've quoted, like I'm doing there. And it will then not only filter the list, but show you the values, the weighted forecast and things like that. So in its simplest form, workflow gives you a bunch of stages to move opportunities through. But that is really the simplest part of it, because they can do an awful lot more than that. So when we have an opportunity that has a workflow, over on the right hand side, we have a panel here, which is where we can go next down that workflow. So as a user, I'd say, right, I'm going to accept that and assign that opportunity to me. Okay, I'm going to say that it's qualified, and now get some different options. I can say I've now submitted a proposal, or I'm negotiating, or I've booked a demo. And really the workflow over on the right here is moving it through the different stages. But what you can do on top of that, each time we use one of these links, the system can prompt for certain information. So we're saying, look, the guy is going to say that he's submitted a proposal to this customer. Well, you need to make sure you update the certainty. You need to make sure you update the forecast. And you see they're mandatory. And you can completely customize what is prompted for at each stage. A really common one is when you click the won or ordered workflow link, it expects a purchase order number. That's a really common one. You can't carry on until you've entered that in. So as well as moving through stages, you can then structure the way the data is collected and force certain things to be entered at those different stages along the way. The other things you can do, as every time a workflow progression is used, is you can make it trigger automatic activity. So a common one is, I've said it's quoted, right, the system's now going to create a task for me in 14 days time to follow it up. Or it's going to remind me in 7 days that the quote's due to expire. So it can send an email to you, it can create a task in your calendar, or it can just do an on-screen notification like this little thing up here, little alerts. And that's really powerful then, because the system is being proactive. We can program that in to be proactive, to drive activity, to trigger actions. You might also send outbound emails to the customer. That's a common one, particularly on the cases side. When a case is resolved, send an email to the customer, informing them that it's resolved and giving them some details. So as well as moving things through stages, as well as validating the entry of data and driving people's workflow, you can also automate quite a lot off the back of workflow as well. And finally on that is escalations, something called escalations, where time passes and the system can know that maybe nothing's been actioned after X amount of time, it can escalate, and again, it can trigger any kind of automated action, whether that's to the user, to the manager, whatever. It's really quite powerful. So if you use workflow, you get the ability to use those kind of things as well. The last bit about workflow is that you get this tracking tab. So on the tracking tab here, that is a full audit trail of the history of this record. So again, if you use workflow, you get that straight away. So it will show you who did what at which stage they moved the record to. There's notes along the way, and they actually will show you every bit of data that's changed along the way. So you've got a full-blown audit trail of that record. You've also got this duration between each stage. That's mildly interesting when you're looking at one record. But what you can do with that sort of from a global point of view is you can use that in reporting, whether it's to report on bottlenecks or KPIs, things like that. So you can say, right, how long does it typically take us to turn a quote into an order? How long does it typically take us to convert a lead to an opportunity, that sort of thing, because you can use that duration data in reporting. So, particularly useful if you want to look at bottlenecks in the process, or where certain opportunities are slower than others, and that might drive then some change in process to improve things. So the tracking info is good on a single record basis, but it can also be used, globally as well, to look at performance. That's an opportunity. As I say, that workflow stuff that I just covered there, all of that is applicable to lead as well. So a lead can have a workflow. The workflow can be as simple as complex as you want. Some people will have an opportunity workflow of qualified, quoted, won or lost. Some people will have huge workflows with branches and loops and doubling back and all sorts of stuff. It's really completely flexible, and the tools to build that are part of the standard CRM product. That's something we do with our eyes shut. We talk about your requirement, we build the workflow, and obviously that then is tailored to you. It's not set in stone either. It can easily be evolved over time. You might adjust timings, you might slot in a new stage, that sort of thing. So it's quite flexible, but it's really key. And as I say, with opportunities particularly, it does have some element of, or drive some element of the forecasting capability, because you can look at, forecast values at different stages of the process, that sort of thing. If we take a quick look at cases, how are we doing for time? Good. Pretty accurate. So if we just take a quick look at cases, bear with me, find one. So a case, as I say, it's not a financial thing usually. It's a customer service or after sales type thing. It's structured much the same as an opportunity, in that it's linked to a company and a person. It's got some summary data. It's got a status of who it's assigned to, what stage is that. It can have a workflow. It's got notes, communications, and documents. But really, cases are any instance that go through a process to resolution. And again, as I say, we've got people using them for complaints, for returns issues, health and safety problems. There's so many variations of things you can use it for. You still get a My CRM and Team CRM view of cases with a pipeline, but it's not a financial pipeline. It's the customer service. It's just show me the cases at this different stage. You've also got an SLA sort of capability in there. So if you've got a resolution time or response time, you can program in the timings of those, and the system can give you a traffic light, red, amber, green type view of things. And again, that can drive automation, that can drive triggered actions and stuff like that. So you can make sure you're meeting your targets or meeting KPIs that you've contracted with customers. But as I say, in terms of principles, with workflows and things like that, it's pretty much the same principle as an opportunity. It's just not a sale, it's an after sales type thing. Looping back round to the beginning, and talk about dashboards. So I mentioned at the beginning, but I always think that's the icing on the cake with CRM, the dashboard, and that is all the stuff we've seen throughout the system is all well and good. You're capturing the data, you're processing things through, but the idea of dashboards usually are to be proactive, and when a user logs in, straight away given everything they need to know on one screen without needing to go clicking around and remembering things or whatever. So again, if you use workflow, we're key to that as well, where you can have things at certain stages, things that are over a certain amount of time past a reminder time or a follow-up time. And the idea is that we try and make that the real positive bit for the users of CRM, where it's actually giving them something back. Obviously, when we do sales demos of CRM, we show lots of pretty graphs and things like that, which look good. And you will use those. People do use them, and there's loads of options for those in here. But do you know what the most common type of dashboard that we find people using, like as a day-to-day thing, is just a bunch of lists. So commonly, people just want a bunch of lists. Show me the things I've got. There's my opportunities. Here's my calendar. Here's my task. So commonly, although the graphs are nice for managerial overview and stuff, the dashboard often is just a bunch of lists of prompts, things that need to follow up on, things that need action, that sort of stuff. You can have multiple dashboards for individual users, different roles. You can tailor dashboards for individuals, or you can just have a global dashboard. It really is quite capable. Just to mention off the back of that, the CRM comes with a reports tool. It comes with a lot of stuff out of the box, but you've got a tool there for building reports within CRM. It's non-geeky point and click stuff. We can give you training in how to build reports. It's actually pretty easy to use, and we always say that if the data is in CRM, you can report on it. So if you've customized fields, if you've got accounts data coming over, it all is considered part of CRM's data. It can all be reported on in the same way. It can all be utilized in those reports, and any report you build can go on a dashboard. So once you've got the knack of building reports, you can also then build dashboards. And you don't need to be a geek to do that either. There's a lot of capability there, which we don't need to get a techie involved in. So it gives you quite a lot of power in terms of utilizing the data in the system and reporting on it. So yeah, dashboard's really key, not to be taken for granted. As I say, once you've got all your data capturing, data structure, and your workflows in, the dashboards really are the layer above that make the system drive activity for you and sort of provide you with some sort of proactive activity or action. Okay. Well, as I say, it was quite a broad overview of CRM. That was 100-mile-an-hour through everything. I'm sure there's lots of questions, but that's kind of where I was going to get to today in this session. I'm sure you can appreciate that cover sort of every single bit, and in fact, quite often when we put a system in, we turn stuff off because you don't use all of it. But that was the kind of top-level overview of CRM. I'm quite happy to put together some subsequent sessions or videos for, in more detail in one of those areas. So if you want to zoom into, let's look at cases in a bit more detail, let's look at the SLA management, or if you want to say, let's look at the forecasting or the reports, happy to do that. Make sure that you can get a good understanding of those things. But that's where I was going to get to today on this session. And pretty perfectly timed, if I do say so myself, 45 minutes. So I guess the thing now is to look at if anyone has any questions. I'm just going to come out of the screen share and see if there's anything around.
There were a couple of questions that came through, Mark. The first one was from Faye, when you were looking at the company and specifically on the accounts tab. And it was in regards to kind of you got different fields, and one of them was like the analysis codes field within the finance and accounts tab. Is that something that can be easily editable, and kind of the flexibility in and around editing certain fields?
There's a couple of questions I can see, so let me go through those then. So in terms of analysis codes, well, first of all, you can map analysis codes to fields in CRM. So obviously you can make sure that data is on both sides. You can then, because CRM is fully customizable, you can call them what you like. So you don't have to be analysis code 1, analysis code 2. It can be customer category or nominal code, or whatever you want. So the simple answer is yes. You can, and not only that, but you can drive activity or workflow off of those. So if you've got an analysis code that categorizes a customer, you can make the workflow slightly different for that customer, or you can use a different quote template. So it's not just the fact that it's there and you can call it what you want, but you can actually do other things off the back of that information. It's quite a common one, actually. And there's another question also from Faye in terms of sending other attachments at the same time as a quote. Well, yeah, on the screen there where you saw the email came up on the screen with the quote attached, it works, very similar to Outlook. I guess you can just upload other files. You can also have the template itself, the email template, can be prepared with a standard attachment. So a common one is you might have your standard terms and conditions, rather than you having to attach it every time. When the email comes up, they could already be attached because it's a standard thing you send out with all emails. So you can do that as part of a template. You can have other attachments, or you can manually attach things on the fly when you're sending the email itself. Couple of other questions. Has this been recorded? Yes. I think that's going to go up somewhere. So yeah, simple answer on that.
Yeah. So just to interject on that one, Mark,
yeah.
what we will do off the back of this is we will make this available via the Innov8 YouTube channel, so others can watch that, and you can also see any of the previous Innov8 Insights events on there as well.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah, a couple of questions in terms of syncing with Outlook. I think both those questions I can cover in one answer actually, and linking to calendar through CRM, booking engineers. Okay, so Outlook integration is standard in CRM. There's two parts to it really. There's email and then there's calendars and tasks, or calendars and tasks and contacts, should I say. So your calendar, your tasks, and your contacts, each CRM user can be linked to a mailbox in Outlook. And then your calendar will sync both ways between the two products. So if you put something in Outlook, it appears in CRM. If you put something in CRM, which may be driven by an automated action, remember, not just manually done, then that will sync back to your Outlook calendar. That's calendar syncing, calendar tasks and contacts. It's all done up on the CRM server invisibly behind the scenes. So you don't have to do anything. It's just something technically we set up, and it does it in the background and just sits there constantly syncing. So that's completely standard functionality and very popular. In terms of booking appointments for people, so yeah, obviously, as well as your own stuff syncing, you can book. A common one is we've got a lot of customers with field engineers and field salespeople who have appointments put into the calendar for them, arranged for them. And obviously, not only can you see their calendar and where they're available, you can book in slots, and that will then push through to their calendar. So yeah, that's a really common one actually, where you have engineers, you'd have engineers in as users and have their calendar synchronizing, and the appointments that get created for them could be created by someone else or by an automated process. So that's completely standard functionality. It's all there. In terms of emails, slightly different kettle of fish. You can file emails into CRM. There is some functionality in CRM. It's been updated recently where when you're looking at a record, you can then bring up your inbox. It links up to your inbox. So you can literally, within the CRM product, see your emails from your inbox, select one or more of them and file them into CRM. And they'll go in as communications, obviously. There is another method of filing emails, which is a bit more advanced as well, which I'll just mention quickly, which is something called email management server. So CRM can file emails behind the scenes from a mailbox, whether that's from user mailboxes or from a CRM filing mailbox. It's commonly used if you want some automated filing, or if you want people to just be able to forward on or copy in CRM. The other thing you can do with that is if you've got like a contact form on your website, you want people to fill in an inquiry, we can collect that an email from that and then create a lead or create a task. So there's some more advanced stuff in terms of CRM grabbing emails and then acting upon it. But in terms of simple email filing, standard functionality is that you can just drop emails from your inbox into CRM as communications. Next question there is, okay, there's a few things, training with working on the workflow. Yeah, so in terms of training, there's a few things. A lot of CRM's customization capabilities are point and click and not too techy. So whilst we typically will build a system for you, we're always happy to give you a bit of insight in how to do certain things yourself, particularly with workflows. So not only will we give user training on a workflow, because obviously it's specific to you, it always is. But if you want, you can have some training on how to tweak the workflow, maybe adjust the timings, things like that. So whether that's user training or admin training, yeah, absolutely, we can give you that. So you can we'll go to whatever level you want with that. There's the question there: can CRM track if emails have been opened? Not really, if I'm honest. The only way it can do that is with the MailChimp integration. So there is MailChimp integration as standard with CRM. You can create an audience in CRM using the search tools and using all the data that's available in CRM. You can then throw that audience over the fence to MailChimp, use MailChimp as you would normally to do a campaign or whatever. And then the data in MailChimp, which is who's opened things, who's clicked on links, things like that, that does come back into CRM. And you can use that. Maybe you say, I'm going to create a follow-up group, give me everyone that's clicked on this link, and now I'm going to send them another email or call them or whatever. So it does that when you use the MailChimp integration, but not just the day-to-day emails, unfortunately. I think that answers the question. Any others?